so that so yes, so good afternoon everyone. So related to assignment will be available as I said, will be available shortly. You can see that I have uploaded 2 videos of instructions on YouTube, but anyhow, I will be just giving more instructions on the assignment when it is available. One of the important thing is this week we are going to have our test 1. This is our 3rd week, and we are going to have our test 1. Now, related to test 1, so test 1 will be available for every section in their second section. Like again, as this NBB section, you have the other section, like other class for this week. So every week you have 2 classes. So the other class is on Thursday at 3:20 p.m. So your test will be available from Thursday 3:20 p.m. onward. So you have the test on in the second session. So every section in the same, likewise, for example, so ZEE section, they have their second class of the week on Thursday at 1:30. So yeah, so Daniel, yes, for your section, it's always on Thursday, right? For not only for you, but also for ZEE section, it will always be on Thursday. So you will have your test open on Thursday, both of the sections, right? And then there is another section. Yes, Vinny, that's a good question. Vinny, that test might be available, Vinny, for 24 hours, good 24 hours. But of course, you will have, 60, whatever, 30, 40 minutes to do that. But of course, its availability as a window will be available for 24 hours. No, Daniel, practice questions are not marked, but as I said, there is one student I should really appreciate who has sent me. It's Kunal, I think. Kunal, you sent me the questions. So they are not graded, but of course, if you are doing them, Kunal, that's wonderful, because you are the only one who has sent me the questions right till now. I don't know if someone else has said. I have not seen that. Yeah. So Harsh, it's not something that you have to submit formally, as I said. So you can send me on Teams, like personal message, or you can send me an email, Harsh. Got the point, Harsh? So it can be your, a team message, a personal message to me, or it can be an email. So as Kunal has done, Kunal has sent me an email. So it's up to you if you just, you happen to email. So send me an email. That would be equally good, equally fine. Right. Yeah, it would be fine, Harsh, and unless you have done, you have tested that. Of course, you will test that code in your Visual Studio Code, and then you can copy and paste that with the question number on your Word document. That looks fine. It can be like that. It's not a problem. But of course, that program has to be tested. You have tested that program in Visual Studio Code. You have run that JavaScript file, and that file is typically running when you are when you started working on that. Now let's me open our folder for today. So we have something called another class codes. Let's put. Okay, so so week 2 we were working on, and let me just first of all open that and see what's going on, and then I'll talk about week 3 as well. Okay. So in January 25, if you had a chance to look at the lecture file, second lecture file. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'll share my screen shortly. Yeah, so if you had a chance to look at the lecture, so how many of you have seen that second lecture, the Thursday's lecture, the video recording on Thursday? How many of you had a chance to look at that? Can I get a feedback from everyone that yes, you had a chance to look at that? Okay, Daniel, good, nice. So again, that's important. That's because We'll be just talking about few more things over here. Okay. So we started talking about a bit about the arrays, and we talked about this push and pop function. So today I'll talk about more about arrays a bit, and then we will just move forward. So let me just call this. Let me just create another folder for us like WEEK3 so that it's all in the same folder. So WEEK3, we are inside WEEK3 folder, and let's create our first file for this WEEK3, and I'm calling this script.js. Okay, so we have talked about arrays in JavaScript. So as you know that we have discussed before that arrays also have different properties and different methods when you talk about in JavaScript. So there are some interesting methods or some interesting properties related to an array. So arrays have the first thing that I want to discuss, whenever there is an array, you can always find its length. Now, it's a property. It's not a method, right? It's a property. So length. Length is always a property that will always tell us that how many letters or how many characters are there or how many elements are there in one of the array, right? And then if you have happened to see in that last lecture, I've discussed that over there, but I'm just again telling you again. So there are some methods that modify our array. So there's some methods they will just change the array, and I have discussed that, and I have told all of you like in last lecture. I'm just giving you first of all comment example, and then we'll talk about that. So first of all, one of them is arr.push. So you can just push an element to that one, right? And then arr.pop. So, somebody's unmuted. Please mute yourself whenever you join. And yeah, so push and pop methods. So push to insert element, insert an element, and pop is to remove an element. So push and pop. And now let's take an example over here, and we'll just talk about that example because we have seen last time some examples. So let's talk about this. For example, if I say var my array equal to my AR equal to right, and I say that 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Vinny, and I'll talk about that. There is some differences over there. So for example, we have this array over here. My array 1, 2, 4. There are 3 values inserted into that one. Right. So what push does is basically if I say my ARR, so again, let's console that. Console my AR. Right. So let's run this file, and you know how to run this file. Sorry. So we have this terminal. I can run this file by node script.js. So see 124 is coming over. So 124 is coming over here. Now, I wanted to tell you, and again, so we have discussed push and pop, but I'll be discussing this over here as well, and then you will know that what happens. So there is this method of push, my arr.push, and if I say I want to push an element 5, for example, right? So if I again console it, if I again console my array, you'll see that what happens. Okay, just see on this. Okay, node script.js. Now if you see here that it has inserted at the back. So if I just keep on pushing the elements, it just keep on pushing the elements at the back side of it. Right? So if I push one more element, let's copy and paste this one. If I push one more element, Control C, and I push this, for example, 8, whatever, and save that, and I run that one. Yeah, so it always inserts from the last position. You can call it last position. Now, interestingly, there is a method which is pop. So, if for example, if I say my ARR dot pop. So if I do that, you see that from where this element will be removed. Let me just console that again. So we have pop one element. If I go here, so you see that it always inserts and deletes from the same position, pushes at the same position and deletes from the first same position. It's sort of, if you are familiar with one of the terminology, it is sort of doing what? FIFO. Are you familiar with that one? First in, first out. First out. Yeah. So there is nothing in the pop. Yeah, exactly. First in, first out, the stack. It is the stack implementation of that. But now most of you will be thinking that how to insert or delete from the back, from the other side. So yes, we have got method for that one as well. So let me just, comment this out. I don't want these one now, and these will go below it, right? Now, there is another method which is called so if I console that one and I say my array dot shift unshift for putting up an element. For example, if I say unshift, and I give an element, for example, 5. Now you see here what happens. If I run this one, you see that now my 5 is inserted on the top, like on the other side of it. Everyone getting that? So if I want to insert at the end, I will use push, and if I want to insert some value at the beginning, I will use this unshift method for doing that. And in the same way as there is unshift, there is a shift as well. Now I have a question. If I do something like this, my ARR.pop, someone asked what will come inside pop. Pop will not contain anything. Pop is a method that will just remove the last element. So now, can anyone tell me what array would be now if I just print this again? What will the value that I'll get, or what are the values that I'll get? Yes, the 4 will be removed, of course. In the end, you see the 4 is removed. And why? Because I have used pop. Now, in the same way, we have got my ARR dot shift. Just shift, nothing. You don't need to write anything into this one. So if I now print my array, you will see what happens. You see that now 5 has been removed. So that everyone, if you have to remove something from the start, you use, if you have to remove something from the start, shift. If you have to remove something from the end, use pop. If you have to insert something at the end, you use push. And if you have to insert something at the beginning, you need at the top. Okay, by using these methods, we can only remove one element. But of course, what you will do is that, Brian, if you need to remove multiple elements, you will just put them in a loop, for example, and you can just remove everything out of that one. Right? So, but this method typically removes one element. You got my point? So again, if I just put that in a for loop and I remove that one. So for example, if I say, so if you have seen the lecture, I have told you that how to access these connections. There are multiple methods for that one. So if I say for, right? So if I say lm of my ARR. So for every element of my ARR, do something. Do what? My ARR dot pop. And now console my array. What should come now? Yes, what will be my output now? So I have just one. Right. So now can anyone tell me why I have this one over here? Why not everything has been deleted? Oh, where is that? Yeah. So it's giving me one value. Just a one value. Yes, anyone? Yeah, I'm waiting. Okay, now let's discuss it this other way. So if I say, for example, var I equal to 0, sorry, 0, I less than my ARR. So you see, my ARR dot length would be how useful it will be, and then I plus plus. So if I run that one, I have just done what? I just started from this point. I is equal to 0. My array dot length start from the 0 and then our length. And then if you see, then what will happen? You see that what is coming up? My array is coming still as 1. Yep. Anyone, why it is coming as 1? Let's put it the other way. Because I like this too. Pop is not working when you have only one element. Okay, pop is not working. You say, okay, let's see that. Now the last element, which is last one, which I have discussed that previously. If you see there, for sorry. So if I say my ARR dot for each. So remember, I've told you that for each itself a function. So I'll just pass a function. And for example, for every value, I'll say element, right? And now what I want to do, I'll have to just make a function body, and I'll say my ARR dot pop. Right, so I have just now used another one, which is my function, and I can just work on that one, and let's see, it is still coming as 1. So one value is always coming up. Now let's change this array, and let's add more values to it. Yes, randomly any values, right? You see, now we have 2 values coming up over here. Even though we are again running for this one, this for each, we are trying to run this one for everyone. But you see that it is only working for these last 2, like 1, 2, 3. 3 values have been just popped out. So it's basically a weird behavior in JavaScript sometimes, that it will just it will just count, and it will just be removing some of the values from the back, but not all. That's a different story altogether. But if you talk about, if you want to work something on that one, and if you want to, for example, say, so alim, so for example, you want to apply something, not here. I'll just talk about when we'll be just talking about strings. But here, what we are just trying to say is that now we have multiple methods for doing that one. So if I say, for example, unshift or shift, for example. Yeah, exactly, shift. So that's what I was saying. So if I just do this shift, and let's check that one. Now we are getting these last 2. So again, from the top, it is just just removing 1, 2, 3 elements, and from the when we are just popping it, it is just removing from the back side of the elements. Right now, the thing is that we have to just keep in mind. Rather, you want to empty area, can you just do my area is equal to 0? Yeah, exactly. So we can do that. So it's not. So I was just saying you that we can have certain implementations of those arrays. So certain implementation of these. You see, now we have an array which is nothing. So it's up to you. So but what I was trying to say here is that these shift, unshift. So these 3 methods that you need to keep in mind: shift, unshift, and pop and push. These are the arrays that work on. Right, now let's talk about some other methods. So for example, my array is 1, 2 or 1, 3, whatever. So there are 2 values in this one. Now there are certain other methods that we can use. One of the method is concat, my array dot concat. So if you want to concat something with this my array, for example, right? So you can just say, for example, I can say 4 value, right? And now let's print that one. So you see, it's still saying 1-3. Why? Because let me tell you the right way of doing that one. This concat method does what? It returns a new array with original joined together with other values of array. So basically, it will completely return. So if I just take this statement over here, cut this from here, and put this statement over here. Now see the difference. What it says. Oh, the terminator is wrong here. I thought maybe I've done something wrong. So let's. Oh, okay. So let's run that. So you see now it is concatenating both of them. Why? Because it is returning a complete array, and it is basically concatenating this one with some other value and then returning that. So concatenation means it will concatenate. It will combine two arrays together, right? So if I just if I when I'm doing this outside of this bracket, when I'm doing this over here and I am printing it over here, are you people getting that? It's basically doing what? It concatenates it, but it's not permanently concatenating and saving into it. Rather, it is doing what? It is just concatenating it over here, and then it goes away from here. Got everyone? Because this will be concatenating and returning a new array. So if you want to print that return the new array, you need to have that concatenation over here. Then it will show you that typical one, right? So this is one of the method of concatenation. You can use concatenation in arrays, and that will definitely definitely help you out in a lots of situations. Then there is another one. So if I say my ARR dot includes, right? So I can say, for example, 2. So I'm saying if my array includes 2, do something. For example, I want to just print yes, right, or you can say anything that right. So what I'm saying is that includes check for us for any value. So includes will go over there and it will just do what? It will just try to find out that if there is a value, it will return true. If there is no value, it will just return false. So includes, basically it will return true or false. Right, now another one. So we are just adding these all to our repository. Sorry, I want to just this one. Make it a comment. So it was includes, right? Then there are other methods of that one, array, and one of the method is, for example, if I say console.log, and I have used one like this before. So if I say my ARR dot index of, so this is a very interesting method, index of 3, for example, right? Index of 3. So where does my index like 3 value reside? So if I do that, it is saying 1. Remember, the array always starts with 0. So this is at the 0th location, and this is at the 1 location. Sorry, this is at 1 location. So index of 3. Now, if I give some element which is not there, for example, if I say index of 4, so if I do that, I get a -1, right? And if I have multiple values, let me just show you. 4, 5, 6 times multiple values. Now, if I say 6, for example, I want to know the index number of 6. Index of, so you can see 4. Then how it is 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the 4. So if you want to check this, typically, typically some value, you will have basically this one that you will check index of. You remember I have done that in the previous lecture as well, but I'm just telling you, just in case if you have missed out that you can always do this this one. Right. So now let's talk about those methods that we have already talked about, like the for and off loop. If you make an array a const, are you still able to use pop, shift, etc.? Okay, Daniel, so that's a very good question. So you say that if I have defined this array as a constant, so now I'll take your example. So you say I have said my const, my array, and if I can do my ARR dot push. So for example, I want to push a 10 into it, right? So this is your question, right, Daniel? my array. Now let's see here what happens. So const my array. I have defined this array as const, and now I want to push one value into this one. Result might be a surprise for you. You see 10 is there. Now keep in mind, and that's a wonderful question, Daniel, because we will come across this type of situations quite often. Whenever we define this const my array is equal to this one, remember this my array, typically the values that are inside, you can always change them. It's not a single const value that you are changing. Now, if it is a collection, even if you define it as a constant, you will see that, and I'll typically explain it when its situation will occur, that you can play with all those values from inside. So for example, I can even do the pop here, which does not require any parameter. So pop means, of course, I know that 6 should be removed. Now you see here, defining a collection as a const does not disallow us from removing or adding, inserting elements to that one. It's against a single value. When a single value is being defined as a const, we know that no one can change that value. Why? Because that value. So remember, for collection, Daniel, it's very different. You got my point, Daniel? So for collection, you will be, even if you define it as a constant, you can keep on just adding the values, or you can just keep on removing the values. And as I said, I will be just explaining it in a situation where we have multiple sort of things, and we can talk about it. Now let's talk about a program and some of the functions that we have. As I said, I have talked about that before. So all the notes are collecting over here for everyone who is looking at the lecture video later on. Or so let's take an example. So for example, if I say var list equal to empty, so we have an empty list, right? Now what I want to say, I say list dot for each. So as I told you, for each does what? For each accepts a function. Now a function, again, which has one element as a parameter, and always remember to put a terminator, because now this becomes a statement, right? So every element, the thing that I was trying to do a bit before, every element, like element plus equal to 3, I'm just adding element plus equal to 3, and what I do is list for example, okay, list dot push element. Now I want to create a new list for that one. List new, right? So if I want to create a new list, so this is a list which is empty, right? I want to create a new list because I want to tell you here a very important function. I want to create a new list, but and how I want to create that new list. For that new list, what I am saying that I will just copy this one. So I'll do something with this one, and I will have a copy of that element in a copy of that one to some other list. You know what I mean? So that means that what I want to do is that this is an empty list, and now what I'm doing is that I am just list new for each, and I am just trying to bring everything, or bring values, which the values that I'm talking about. Values. There's someone unmuted. Yeah. So the values will be what? Values will be copied for that one, and now we can just populate that one. So if you see that I have just taken a list new dot for each function element, and for every element I'm just saying that keep on adding up 3, and just do what? In the end, you have to just push that into the typical value. Now, what I'm trying to say here over here is that typically we have a function. We have different functions that we can use for different situations. Now, one of the functions that is used in typical in this kind of situation is basically, let's talk about that, is basically map function. Map function. Map function is an interesting one. Map function does what? Map function creates and returns a new array constructed by calling the provided function on each element of the original array. That's what I was saying. So if we have an array and we want to implement something, we want to just apply something on that one, and we want to get an element back from that one by after implementing some of the typical values, we use this map function in that situation. Now, what is the example of that one? Let me just, I'll just, give you a very nice example of that one. Right. Okay, then I'll talk about the test. I'll talk about the test towards the end. Don't worry. I'll just talk about the test, and you will see that what we are talking about. Right. So, for example, var names equal to, let's take some names here, and Alan, Bob, and Christina. Those fictitious name that I always use. Right. So we have these three names. Right. Now, I want to create a new name, for example, and I say new names. So, for example, var new names equal to, now see here, this is very interesting. The previous one, I'll take my names and I'll map something. What does it do? This map is an interesting one. Map also accepts a function, which is, so to speak, I have not used that word quite often, a callback function. So there is a callback function in this map, right? And I can say return element dot to uppercase. Now this is the method that I'm using. Now let's console both of them. I'll console names as well, and also I'll console the new names as well. So I will define, let me just run that one, and then I'll tell you that what it is doing. So you see here, names were this collection, these arrays, like this array of names over there. I've created a new name. I want to create a new name after applying some of the processes of that one. Is that making sense to everyone? I just want to emphasize on that one, because this map function is used quite often in our programs, and usually you'll be using this a lot in our programs. So I have one collection. I want to apply something on that one, and then I want to create a new collection for that one. So I said what new names equal to names.map. So map every letter, every element of given array to something, and then just create a new names or something like that. So you see here what I've done. I said names.map function element. So take out one name and store that into this element, and do what? Element dot to uppercase, and convert that into the uppercase and return that value specifically. So what happens is that these names have been applied some processing on them, and after processing they have been returned into a new one. So map is a very interesting function, and let me just give you here the definition of this map function, that it it creates and returns a new array by calling the provided function, right? On each element. That's important. Each element. And I'll write this in caps. On each element. So on each element, it will implement a function, and then it will return something. Map, we'll be using this map quite often. We'll be using map every now and then. And you'll enjoy this map usage, because when we'll be using this map, you will see that there are lots of interesting things that we can do with that one. Right. So these are a few of the methods that I wanted to just talk about. I have already talked about that as I said for each, but now this is map. Map is basically something which is converting or implementing something on the other file, other things, and then returning those values to us. Right. So this is basically these are some of the methods that we wanted to use over here. Okay, so now just to continue, we need to discuss something more interesting. I'll come at the very bottom, and we have to discuss regular expressions. Have you as a group, as a class, you have discussed these regular expressions before? Regular expressions? Like, did you discuss these regular expressions in any other programming language before the C language? What are regular expressions? Why do we use them? Kunal or everyone? Okay, you said that UL101. Okay, I don't know about this course, but you have studied that. So everyone has studied these regular expressions because that will really help. Okay, Linux. Okay, Linux, you discuss that. Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. If you people know about that, it will be a great help. That's great. That's great. That's wonderful. So you say that you have already done that. So I won't be going into too much details, but again, you should know what are regular expressions in programming. We generally need to we need to just work on regular expressions because we want to match patterns, and wherever the patterns are matched, you need to work on that one. Okay, so if you know about that one, so the only thing that so this was the regular expression that we had to discuss over here. But as I said that you are already familiar with that. Now the practice exercises come for this week 3, and this is another interesting one, that it will contain the practice of strings, arrays, and regular expressions all. So these are the practice questions till this 15, and then there is a question given over here, and the big question that has all those values, all these things combined together. But if you are able to complete this one, like starting from this one till this 15 questions, that will be interesting because this will be just doing that postal code something and something like that. So it has all those flavors of that one. So this is another practice questions that okay, definitely I would love to have from some of you if you are able to do that. So we will be just talking about that one, and that would be really interesting. Okay, so if you have this is the practice question for today, and so most of the functions that we have discussed, most of the things that we have discussed, or everything will come into play when we will start working on these practice questions. So let me know if you have any questions related to that one, and I would be happy to answer those questions if you have any related to these questions. Right. So now I would like to talk about something interesting, something very interesting, and something that might be a new thing for you. The object data type, which is very different. So regular expressions, I'm leaving on that one as you will have already discussed. So now I'll be talking about objects and objects. Typically, we are talking about objects. And that will be interesting that how to, so data types we have talked about, some of the data types you already are familiar with that. We have talked about that one and we have worked on one over the other. But today we'll talk about another special data type, and that is called object. Now, first of all, an object is defined as, for example, if I say O, by using curly braces, right? Curly braces. So these curly brackets will tell you that the data type that you are creating is an object. Is that clear to everyone? Now, right now, this one, which is mentioned over there, this is empty. This is empty object literal, right? Because there is nothing inside that one. Empty object literal. So object literals are what? Object literals are something. Object literals are something with a key value pair in it. What does that mean? And this will be, as I said, this will be an interesting concept. So, for example, this was an O, or let's call it obj1, for example. This was object 1, and it's an empty literal, right? Now let me create another one, obj2 equal to. So objects have. Let me just make it one line so that right now it does not confuse anyone. So the object literals are what? They have a key value pairing inside that. So for example, I say course and I say WEB222. Something like that. Course colon WEB222. Now, it's sort of if you like, I think you have not like studied Python before, but let's talk about something like a dictionary or something like that. So this is an object. This is an object literal where I have given a key and a value pairing over there. Does that make sense? Now, it is typically if you look at it carefully, it is more or less like the representation of an array. What does that mean? Let me tell you something very interesting. If I ask you, I will write that in comments because it won't accept that. If I say var list equal to 0 colon, and what name I gave it to the first array? Let me talk about what was that array, what name? Alan. Okay, let's give that Alan. 0 colon Alan. So I want you to just focus in that one. This is an array that I have defined. I've never used this terminology before. I'm just telling you. So do you understand that this really makes as I have done that before, this really makes it an array of strings. Make sense, everyone? Now, if I ask you, do you know that every one of these values are mapped with some of the index number? Do you understand that? If I ask you, first value is at 0 location, second value is at 1 index, not location, and third value is at 2 index. Does that make sense to everyone? Because when we are defining array, we do not explicitly tell this that this lies on 0, this lies on 1 and 2. But if you go down deep, typically this is happening over there. Because if I ask you, I want to print Bob out of this, how would you print that? Let me just give this. Let me take this example because this is an interesting discussion and I want you to understand this one. So if I have this again, I'm taking this one again, example again. Bob, Christina. Now again, if I ask you that I want to just print the name of Bob, how would you print that? You'll say console.log. What you'll do? You'll say list of 1. Does that make sense? If you say list of 1, I will get Bob. If I say that I want to print Christina, how would you print that? You'll say list of 2 is the Christina. If I say I want to print Alan, you'll say okay, list of 0 is Alan. Make sense to everyone? Mustafa, after Mustafa's yes. Does that make sense? So actually arrays are also key value mapping or key value pairing, but their key value is basically index and their number, right? I'll just remove that because I don't need that for now. Now objects are typically, if I just remove that one as well, objects are typically also that, but here we have got the E also with the in the form of a name. So here, if I ask you that, for example, and I'll talk about that one. If I want to just print, for example, let's take another example, and then we'll talk about this. And I'll put that at the top, just so that it does not confuse you. Okay, so for example, if I say I want to create a course info object, course info, and I'll say the course is WEB222, right? Now I want to add another property. I'll say comma, I'll say section, and for example, NBB, right? And I say, for example, school, and I say Seneca. Now see here, the style of writing an object when there are multiple values. As I save it, it will tell us. So generally, you can write this way as well. The course is WEB222, section is NBB, school is Seneca. Right. So now let's do one thing. First of all, let's talk about this. See, obj2 or course info. If I check their types, if I go to console.log and I say type of course info. Let's see what is the type of course info. You know what I mean? I just wanted to tell you. You see object. So course info is an object. And let me see about obj2 as well. What is the type of obj2? So you see that the type it is saying is basic obj2, yes. So obj2 is basically, it is saying what? You see object and object. You understand? We are talking about this object. So basically we have got this object. These are the object types. Anyhow, I don't want this one. The real discussion is that if I want to print something out of this course info, for example, right? I want to print this, for example, section from this one. So how would I print that? Console.log, and I'll say course info dot. What should I write? Anyone? Dot section. Now I will get only the section LBB. Make sense, everyone? So this is called dot notation. Yeah, exactly. Just like a stuff. So this is called dot notation. Dot notation. So I can access anything outside inside from that one. So if I same ways, if I go over there and I say console.log obj2 dot course. So you know there is only one field, so it will just come up. Yes, you are right. It's more like a structure in C line, structures in C line. And not only this one, I can even use this one. See here, console.log, and I can do something like this: obj2 square brackets, right? Square brackets course. Now let's run that. Oh, it will inverted commas. It will be, I think, inside inverted commas. Yes, the field should be inverted commas. Okay. Now see here. Now see that I can even access that one. So if I say that I want to access something from course info, I'll say console.log and I'll say course info square brackets inverted commas. So if I write, for example, school, right? So if I write a school, so you see that only school is coming up. So these are the two methods to access any value from inside of an object. obj2 of that's a wonderful thing. You are right, Vinny. You nailed it. You nailed it. You see here, if I say, for example, first of all, obj2 and I say 0. For example, 0. Let's first of all do that. Okay, just hold on a minute. Course is not defined. What is that? Oh, something is missing after that. Oh yeah, sorry. So I was just thinking that what's going on. Now see here, it says obj2 0 is undefined. So you know obj2 0, it's not collecting. Yeah, it's not, you know, it's not like it's not collecting that as an array. Rather, you need to just give, because 0 was there in array. Now here it is maintaining yeah, it's not an array anymore. So it's maintaining the key value for that one. So it will say WEB222 or something like that. Yeah, it's not an array anymore. You're right. Okay, so this is related to that one, the array. Now let's take a quick break of 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll be back. Now I'm a bit tired, and we'll start from this point onward. And first we can do that, and first we'll be doing that with 3 members. What do you mean by 3 members? So course info is course info is an object with 3 members. You're right. There are 3 fields in that one, and I'll just build up on that one. And we will. Someone has asked, can we declare array into object? Yes, we can do that. Rather, not yes, we'll definitely do that, because that is something that is required for us, right? So we'll do that. Let's take a quick break right now, and I'll be back after the break in 5 to 7 minutes, and let's have some more cool discussion then. Recording. So before going into the break, we were just talking about this object literal. I have started the recording again, hopefully. Yes. So we are talking about this object database, like object data type, and this is very important. And I would now give you an example that will show you more that how important this is if you know. Now let's talk about a situation, a scenario. Let's say a fictitious thing. Position of Seneca College, right, on map. So if I want to just map the position of Seneca College on map, like we are talking about this real map that you see.
Can you share your screen?
Oh yeah, why not? Why? Sorry. Yes, that happens because after break, sometimes I am also not. I'll just share my screen. No worries. No worries. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Okay. So let's see this example. I said that position of Seneca College on map. And for example, someone says that the Seneca College position on map is 436532 and minus 79.3452, whatever. So you know this position or the positions, they appear in a longitude and latitude form. So for example, if we say, okay, this is the position, right? Now I'll say, okay, so for example, I'll say var latitude is equal to 43.6532, right? And var LNG, you know, longitude is equal to minus 79.3545, something like that. So I can define two values like this, right? So for example, so these are the two values that I have to define, and I can just define these as a two variables. That's one thing. Now another thing is that you might want to say, I will say, okay, I'll say Seneca equal to something like this. I'll paste these two values in my array, and I can save these two in an array. So for example, if someone says this and comma this, now the position can be defined as like this in a single line. I can define something like this, and I can say, okay, Seneca's position on the map is typically like this. Now the problem, for example, these are the individual values. Now the problem with this is that you need to just remember the 0 and 1. So for example, and unless you know the index number, you will never guess that what value. Sorry, I just pasted both of them wrong. So you can just always do that. What you need to remember the zeros and zeroth one. And again, if you want to print one of them, if I say that, for example, what is the latitude of the Seneca College, you'll say, okay, if I want to find out the latitude, I'll have to do console log this one. Are you getting that? So if you do console log Seneca of 0, then you do that. And again, for smaller values, when there are only two values, it's easy to remember these two values. But talk about a situation where there are lots of values, and you have to just remember that everyone's index. Rather than doing that, rather than defining them as an array, if I define them as object literal, so I say Seneca equal to curly braces. Now see here, you'll know the importance. Let whatever is the value 6532, right, comma, and LNG longitude. And this is another way of writing an object, that you after a comma you give a new line, and then you can just print that something like that. So minus 79.3545, whatever. Now you see, because why I'm telling you, I'll just explain how this is happening. Now this is quite easy to remember, and I just need to do what I can say Seneca dot let. So it will give me the latitude of Seneca, and Seneca dot LNG will give me the longitude of Seneca. Is everyone getting that? And what is the important? Like you might be thinking that that these are the two. So if I tell you a very interesting thing, these are the two ways of representing something. This one and this one, which I have used before, like this one. I'll copy and paste this here. So these are the two ways of defining one. So which one is more easier, more something that I should always remember, or I can remember easily, is that this one, because I have got a reference to the name. So rather than having the index number, and rather than having this index number for that one, I will have this this latitude and longitude name over there. So rather than defining them in array, I can just define them like that. Okay, now think about the situation, because its importance will also be known. Think what if we have large, exactly how we are talking about that, but when we have large data. So for example, there is a data points equal to, so you want to collect maybe multiple values of multiple values. So I say that the first point is this, for example, this 43.6532. I'm talking about right now an array situation. and minus 79.3832, whatever. There is one value, and then comma. So array can have another different arrays inside that one. So I can just copy and paste this one, and that's where I want to take all of you. So for example, these are the 6 locations that I have to remember, and let's change some of them a bit. So just we know that we are talking about which one, right? And let's change them as well, something like that. Now, let's talk about this situation. Now, this is an array of arrays. Are you understanding? This is array of arrays. And now, if I want to ask you that I want to print this value, if I want to print this value, you remember that it is sort of a 2-dimensional array. And if you want to print this value, minus 29, what will be the code to write that one? Let me just show you. What will be the code to write that one? So if I ask that minus 29, I have to print. So you'll say console.log. And now you'll say, okay, in console.log, I'll have to write points, square brackets. Now, do you need to remember the indexes? I hope you are familiar with this 2-dimensional array. Yes, not one of one. And not one of one. Remember, this one of one. This is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 1, etc., etc., etc. So I need to remember this one. Is that right? So I need, if I need to access something, I will have to do something like this. Now, think about a situation. If I just make it a comment, rather, I'll just make it everything a comment. I have to connect multiple points, and now I define like this. I say var points equal to square brackets. First of all, right? I'm creating an array, but array of objects rather than. So I say latitude 43.6552 whatever, comma longitude and minus 79.5442 whatever. This is first one. And now I can just copy and paste this all. So these are 4 values, and again just change those values a bit. And let's change that. Just for nothing, I've just changed them. Okay. Now tell me, how can I access this minus 39? Can anyone tell me how can I access this minus 39? Minus 39, the second one. See here. Yeah, exactly. I have an array of objects. You're right. I have an array of objects. So if I ask you, how can I access this minus 39 value? Can anyone tell me how can I access that one? Anyone? What should I write? Points of 1. Someone says points of 1. If I write points of 1, let's run that and check that, because okay, let me just close this one. I don't want this one. So I just this one. Exactly. Now someone has given the right answer, but let's see. It is bringing up everything. I don't want that one. So I can say 0.01 dot, for example, latitude or longitude. So if I say latitude, the first value will appear. And if I say LNG, longitude will appear. You got it? Now, see here. Now, how easy it has become to just now pointing out a value. I just need to just find out the row. But still, I need to find out the row. I say, for example, this is a 0 row, this is a 1 row. In the 1 row, go and just find out this LNG. And again, if I can just do that, I said 3 of LNG, whatever. So the third row's longitude will appear, and that is 9050.20.54. So object data type they are very, very important. No, yeah, exactly. But you are right. This is the way of using them and in array form. If you want to access that in array form, you'll have to write that square brackets over here. And not only that, you'll have to put them in inverted commas as well. Because this is the key. This has become a key. Right? So let's check that one. Someone has shared that code. Yes, minus 94 is coming, right? So that's a wonderful thing. And now, building upon that one, or maybe working upon that one, it's much easier to remember key value than counting digit. Yeah, exactly, Vinny. And that's the point I want to make over here. that if you have this one, you can always do something like interesting. Now, again, as I said, I will be building upon that one. Now let's talk about another data type. I hope you are understanding this one. And now I'll talk about another data type, and you will see that okay, that makes so much sense. So if I say I have to collect users information, some user information. So I say user, and this one. So for example, I say first name, and you will say that okay. So first of all, I'm just giving a fictitious name first, last name, and I say last, and I say email. There is an email for every user. So I say, for example, first@gmail.com, and then comma, and then I say it's I'm creating a user. So I'm saying logged in. Logged in is false, so he's not logged in right now, and something like that. Level of that user, something like that. So I'm just giving some some value. And let me tell you one another thing. Maybe last login new date. So we have not talked in details about the date, but right now just keep in mind that okay. So just keep in mind that we have something called a date as well, new date. So we'll just with current date, it will just bring up the current date for us now. Right. And now this is a user that I've created. This is an object I've created. Now this is the key value pair: first name, last name, email, logged in, and last login. Right. And I'm creating a function with that one. Now I'll just keep you very keep ourselves. So if I create a function login, and I say that it will accept a user, and what it do is say user dot logged in equal to true. Let me see here, because I am just making a case for something. I've created a data type which is user equal to curly braces first name first, last name last, email is equal to first at email, logged in value is equal to false, last logged in is equal to new date. Now I have just defined a function which is accepting a user. So you see that we are used to of passing a single value to the function, but here we are passing a complete object to the function. Does that make sense, Vinny? Because now I am passing a complete user. Now, if I pass this complete user, I can access any property of this one. I can change any property of this user. Does that make sense? So it means that now it can be, I can just do that. And what I'll do is that I can, if I come over here and I say console.log, and I just print this user first of all. Now let's see how it will come out. Now see here. Oh, there is some error. I have missed something. Bracket missing after which? After what? Let me see that. Where I am missing? After argument list. I am missing a bracket after argument list. Is there anything here? No. False, Gmail false. Can you just find out if I have made some mistake? User login 9116 yeah, that comma. Okay, just hold on a minute. I'll just remove that for date for the time being, and then we'll add that later on. Yeah, now it's showing that. I don't know. It was something to do with date and something, and I'll check that. So you see here what it's doing. It has returned me. If you see that I am returning this user. First name first, last name last, email is first at Gmail, and logged in is equal to you see that false, and last login it's also showing me the last login, even though I have removed that last login. Anyhow, so it's just showing me the date and time and everything of the last login as well. Now let's do it again, because now I've removed that last login. Yeah, so now it's removed. Now if I call this function with this one, for example, if I call login, right? If I call that login function, so now let's see. User. one. Logged in of undefined. Oh, okay, okay, sorry. I will not pass the user. Something like that. You see here, now it is printing it twice. So first of all, it is printing it false. If you see here, if I can show you, this is printing it false for the first time, and then I have called this function. If you see, I have called this function login user and pass this user. That's what I'm, and now when I'm printing it again, you see that it has changed the state of that variable. So the state of the variable gets changed while you just define that one, and when you just do that. Right, everyone is getting that. So now this function is basically changing the state of that variable, and I can just do that. Now defining this object is also very beneficial, because you know that in C language you have heard about that. Very no need to sorry. The comma. Usually the comma works with that one. Changing value of last member. Yeah. So why it is it? So you see that I have said that whenever an object is passed, if it has a property logged in, change it to true. When you getting the point? Yeah. So it is changing that one. So you can change anything about that function, about that one. Yeah, yeah. No problem. Okay. So this is basically doing what this is. So now defining an object is very beneficial. I'll tell you as a little story. If you know, and I'll come back to this user by the way, and I'll be using this user a lot, because we'll be developing our program based on this user. But right now, I'm making it comment. So do you know that C language has an inherent problem that from a function you can only return one value at a time? Do you remember that? You can only return one value at a time. Other than we use pointers or something like that, but you can only return one value from the function. And why? Because every function just has one return statement, and then return statement comes, and then nothing can be saved. Now I'm telling you, this object data type is so beneficial. It will, without using pointers and things like that, it will do something. So for example, calculate, so calval, calculate value. So I'm just calling a function calval, calculate value, and I'm saying return. So return. So return, what we do, I can do something like that. I can return a number. I can return any variable. For example, if something is passed to it, X, and I can return that one. Anyhow, here what I can do, I can return two values by using this object. So for example, I say total 120, comma, average 44, something like that. I don't know what is in between. Now calval is returning two values, not two values. It's returning an object. Now see what will happen. If I say var result equal to calval, calculate value. Now interestingly, this result has two values inside that one, and you can see that when I take my cursor over that. Really, are you getting that? This result is now getting two values, a total and average, and both of them are the numbers. You see that number have been passed from there. So if I want to print that, you see console.log. If I say result, if I say just result, what will be printed out? Both values as an object. And I can even print out a single value from that. If I say just total, you see 120. Are you making sense of it? This is very interesting. That by using an object, you can reply, or you can return a number of things in an object. So you can just return a complete object from the function. And if you are returning a complete object, that returning object will become multiple values for you. Is that making sense to everyone? And this 120 and 44, this all be calculated over there. Right? So this object data type is so very important, and I've told you that this is the very, very important thing that we have. And I will talk about some more important things, but I will just keep for today. I'll just keep it to this point, because there are some interesting facts that I'll discuss in our coming class. And so towards the end, I will just like to announce that again, that your test will be on Thursday. It will be open for 24 hours. It will be just available for 24 hours, but again, you'll have to attend them. Yes, Brian. So test will be, yes, it will be a combination of, Brian, multiple choice, and maybe some objectives or like other than that as well. Daniel, for the time being, you might not be required to do any severe coding, but anyhow, last 2 weeks, not this week, before this week, whatever we have discussed, it will be including that one, right? So Daniel, there will not be some some serious coding of sort, but again, some basic coding that you are familiar with, for loop, for each, etc., that we have discussed. And not Daniel, not in up till now. Daniel, everything before our today's class. You got my point? Before our today's class. Harsh, for that, Harsh, you have to, yeah, week 1 and 2. So Harsh, for that, you have to go to addendum and you'll find it over there, because I've given that over there. How much weightage is that? That has some weightage, right? And as I said, you will be just getting the assignment as well, assignment 1, which is already delayed. It was supposed to come on Friday, but it is already delayed. But of course, so yes, you will have enough time. You will have, like, again, as I said, for test, you will have 30 to 40 minutes. And then you will have that will be open for particularly for some longer time, right? So having said that, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. Assignment of Daniel, whenever it will open, 15 days from that. Daniel got it? So Daniel is asking when assignment 1 will be due. It will be due when it is open. There will be 15 days to complete that. Right. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. I hope you understand these concepts. These are all the interesting concepts that you have. Just go home, try to work on them. If you have any questions, you can always ask them. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day, everyone.